Question: are you stoked about the trajectory you're on? By that I mean, do you feel at a gut level that you are moving toward a future that is brighter than today? Do you feel like if you just kept doing what you are doing now, that like, how could it get better than this? Or are you questioning your trajectory and wondering how to get on the right one? Are you seeking to get some answers from within about what you want and what you care about? And are you wondering how to do that? If your answer was yes to either of those questions, then today's Thinking Vitamins podcast is definitely for you. The podcast that helps you boost your abundance. And with that, let's bring on Marco and Miguel Peralta to the Thinking Vitamins podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. We're happy to be here.
Gentlemen, I am pretty excited to be speaking to you today. When I came across your content on Instagram and saw you speaking about energy and about how it works, and I dialed right into your message, and I was pretty excited when you got back to me and said yes to being on the show. So I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you for inviting us. We love when people connect at this level because that means we're in the same frequency, and we love to share our perspective, and we love to hear other people's perspective because we're all connected and we are learning and teaching each other. So this is amazing. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. All right, listeners, we've got Marco on the left. We've got Miguel on the right. And they have written a book, as I just mentioned, called I Am You. A powerful concept that, as I have learned this lesson in my life, it is absolutely transformed. I have been contemplating this lesson for over 10 years. And today we're here to talk about, I think we're here to talk about whatever comes up, right? But our focus is how to connect to your inner wisdom to readjust to your trajectory in life. And I know that's sort of part of what you do. Gentlemen, is that, I'll let you decide who answers what. Is that the message that's coming through in your book, I Am You, or is that what you were trying to convey, or what was the goal of I Am You?
There are many messages in the book, and I'm sure whoever reads the book, they're going to get the message meant for them. And one of the messages I can tell you for sure is integration. To me, that's the magic word. It's integration. How do I become an integral being? And that means, how do I sync my spiritual body with my emotional, with my mental, with my physical body, and make sure that the four of them are like pillars. They grow at the same time. Because if one of them doesn't, then there is this harmony in the body in every level. So that's why it's so important that as we continue growing and expanding as spiritual beings, as mental, physical, and emotional beings, we do it with the awareness that it has to be consistent and in balance, in equality with all of them together. So one of the messages to me, one of the most important messages in the book is to find that integration, and like I mentioned before, to become these independent and integral beings. And from there, live our lives, our fullest potential, which we can. But sometimes when we don't have a clear idea of what we're looking for, and we start looking outside of us, the answers, then we miss where the real information is, which is within. And once you access that power, there's this magic that unleashes from within. It's always from within. And then from there, you start understanding why we don't have magic inside. We are the magic. And once you connect to that magic, then you start living that magical life. But first, the first thing you have to believe is in magic, because if you don't believe in magic, then you won't see it manifested. So I think that's the first invitation. We have to believe in magic.
I think that's great. So listeners, all listeners who believe in magic, this episode is for you. I so believe in magic. And all listeners who are like, no, I don't believe in magic. Well, this episode is still for you. Maybe by the end of the episode, you will believe in magic. Uh, and I, in fact, have been sad for such a long time. I was sad for such a long time because when Harry Potter came out, I was so sad about being a muggle. And fast forward, several years later, and I realized I'm not a muggle. I am magical, and I was able to accept that truth. I love what you had to say about aligning the physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional, and the integration. And I think that I love what you have to say about that because as I have aligned mine, I used to have goals like I want this many clients or this many dollars or this much growth or this many followers. And that's all gone from my world. I now have only the goal for love and joy, fun, and health. And nothing else like literally nothing else matters. And as I have come to those more whole types of plans for my life, I have had uplifting experiences mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. So I really want to get into what you were saying about that. The other thing that I have discovered physically, I really denied my for the first, let's say, 30 years of my life, I denied my spiritual existence. And I ended up unhappy, stressed, and not a good relationship, and then in a terrible car accident. And then I had to get into my emotional experience to clear that up. So I had a good emotional experience, I've always been, pretty there. So that was fine. Then I wasn't taking care of my physical body because then I got really into like meditation and getting all connected to the universe. And I did that for about a decade. But then, I started learning that my body is my first mind and I was ignoring it. So I wasn't in integration. And this year, I'm really focusing on that integration. So I would love to have you speak more to that because that's definitely been a thing for me where I've done this and then this and then this. Is it possible to come at it holistically, all those angles?
Absolutely. And holistically, it's a fancy word for uh, just being who you are, because we are everything. We are the mind, yes. We are this vessel, this body, this temple. But we are also the emotions that we feel. So we're every aspect, right? And being able to integrate these four aspects, these main four aspects, because we're the universe, right? It allows you to also understand that not only you have these four different bodies,
Bodies.
but also you are the person next to you, and you are the person uh, in front of you, and once you start realizing that there is an aspect of you that lives in that person and this person and this person and everyone, you start experiencing life differently. And once you start also realizing and remembering that not only everyone else in this planet is one with you, but then these other energies, these unseen energies, your higher self, God, uh, anything that you believe in, then you start expanding and expanding and expanding, and then more understanding starts to become part of who you are, and you become the understanding. And then you stop seeking for answers, because then you realize you are the answer for every question. And there is no limit into, of course, while on earth we create these limitations, and we believe that we are this. Even sometimes when we set goals based on our limited mind, thinking that's as much as I want to get. This many clients, this many dollars, this house. But if we just stop trying to set goals and try to invest our energy in ourselves, and rise our frequency, then we align to things that we probably couldn't even have thought about. So it's important for us to realize that these limitations that we create only come from our past, from our ancestors. They don't come really from the mind, they come from our experience, our past experiences. And we keep going and setting intentions based on what we know,
What it's been.
what it's been. Because my mom was like this, because my parents, even when you get sick, the first thing they ask you, well, is our mom passed a couple of years ago, and the first thing they ask her is, anyone in your family has had cancer before? So we are conditioned that we are our past, that we are tied, and yes, we are, but we are this present moment, and every moment is a present moment. And if this is where our focus is, you'll never have to worry about your future anymore.
You just said so many rich things, Marco. I really liked what you had to say about checking within. And I remember, as I was learning to do this, it was like, how do I trust my truth? Right. I remember the me that was so focused on goals. I felt like I didn't have, I felt, I felt scarcity. I felt fear. I didn't recognize the love that was all around me. I didn't recognize the protection. And you even said the answers to everything are here. They're within the body. I am starting to really get that. But I remember, and I'm thinking about some of the listeners, and maybe we should dive into the book for this. I don't know, you tell me, but who are like, how do I get this information? I still feel like I'm so afraid, and I don't know how I'm going to pay rent, and I don't know how I'm going to take care of myself, or my parents are getting older, and I don't know how I'm going to provide for them what they need. Where does someone begin if they're there?
I believe the most important thing for any situation, not just how am I going to pay rent, any situation, it comes from patterns that we have developed throughout the years. So that's why your fear comes from your, like he said, your past experiences, and you can only see ahead and see the pattern that will continue repeating. So in order for anything to change, we must change our patterns. So we need to be honest, and it comes from a real place of honesty. Okay, this is what I'm not doing the way, it's not efficient anymore. It's not serving me. So when you identify what's no longer serving you, it's easier to change. But if we think we're right, then it's going to be a really hard space to change anything because I'm right. And a lot of people feel that way. It's hard to accept that we are wrong. And but once we do it, it's amazing, because then we can make adjustments in our daily lives and start maybe small. I mean, you don't have to change your whole life overnight, but you can start with what needs to be changed, what needs to be addressed. So if it is money, well, what am I doing that is not working out? Then you need to do the opposite. You cannot just slightly change what you're doing. You literally have to do the opposite of what you're doing. So, and that's also hard, because how do you completely go from this to here to the other perspective overnight? Well, if you want a real change, that's the only, maybe not the only, but it's a fast solution to go from one pattern to the next, which is opposite.
Okay, this is interesting because I think it is this. Okay, I think this brings me to the book. So, because of course, in the book, you talk about polarity. Is that what, am I making the right connection here?
Um, Everything is correct.
Okay. So when you're talking
In the
about the
book,
opposite, I think of polarity. Is this related here?
in the book, the way we describe polarity is more in the sense of, for anything that exists, there is always the opposite. In this case, as above, so below, as within, so without, positive and negative. So there is always a counter force in everything. Uh, that's what in the book we refer as polarity. Can this be applied to the way you live your life, or to what he was mentioning? Well, yeah, sure. If you're doing something wrong, well, just what does it feel? And this is the thing: we know what's wrong and right. I mean, we know what we're doing wrong.
For us, though.
For us, what our morality tells us, this is wrong and this is right. And sometimes we're just stuck in this pattern because it's not like we don't know how to change it. Sometimes we don't want. We're too comfortable where we are to make any changes. And although it's not working out for us, we're just comfortable there. Like, well, I'll change. At least I'm good. But and taking risks requires work. Taking action requires to get up and do something about it. And a lot of people don't want that, and it's okay. You can be where you are all your life, but at some point in your next life, or the next, or the one after, you will have to make that change, because that's what's going to take you to your next level. So you might as well do it now. Why do you need to wait for another lifetime? Because guess what? And this is a little bit maybe more of what we talk about in the book. You have the answer on how to do it, and most people say, well, I just don't know how to access that wisdom, that inner wisdom that I have. Okay, so that's why we wrote this book, because a lot of people would ask us, and we say, okay, what if we create a guide on what worked for us? Not that is the only way to do it, but because it worked for us, I'm sure that it can also work for other people that are looking for those answers and how to access that wisdom. So that's where the book mainly started, as a
Beautiful.
reference. People will ask us a lot.
Did you, and so you
And as a
say
reference for also as a way.
it
Go ahead.
worked for you. And so that, that suggests that you didn't always have the truths, access to the truths that you have now. There was sort of a before and after. And it's interesting that you were twins. So can you tell me a little bit about that story of sort of where was your consciousness or your awareness of these truths that you've now discovered before, and what was that journey, and how did it have two of you in there, which is really interesting, not just a solo journey but the two of you together? I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, by nature, we are born seekers, and we're always seeking. We are animals of habits, and we're always seeking for better ways to do things. So when we were little, we already had something in us that told us that there was something greater, and not because this dimension is not great, no, but something greater that we needed to understand in life. But being twins helped us a lot to understand this concept of oneness, because we were literally a reflection of each other. So we understood very well that there is no way we are separate from each other when we even share looks. I mean, and even when we were little, we were identical. So,
I mean, we come from one cell, from one source, right? And
right.
now there are two of us.
So that explanation early in life to us, how from one source of energy, one comes out with the same information, identical information, and yet you can still be different, but you still come from one source. So very early in life, we understood that concept of oneness. But of course, before we came to this higher understanding, we have to live our lives, our human lives. Not that we're not human anymore, but a very raw human life, and that is you know a lot of partying, alcohol, and just
We
a
never did
very
drugs.
we never yeah
We did smoke.
we yeah cigarettes, but we wanted that experience for
We needed it
ourselves. We
somehow.
needed it
Not that we
because
wanted it consciously and said, "Oh, I want to smoke." No, somehow.
no, I think actually we wanted it because at 16 I met this girl, and her mother was a healer, and she would lay hands on people and literally cure them of cancer. She was amazing. So, and I wanted that for myself. I wanted that life. And she's like, I'll teach you. And I was like, look, it's gonna sound bad, but I wanna drink, I wanna party, I wanna do all these things. I'm too young. I appreciate what you do, but maybe I'll come back to you when I'm older. Anyway, I never went back to her, but we started on our own path as whatever, doing healing work, energy work, channeling work. But it was after we got that party thing out of our system, and well, we also hit rock bottom, and that's when a change needed to happen. So that's why in the book, it's only a reference. It's never a way for us to tell people what to do and how to do it. It's just a reference. We believe in the power of self discovery, in the power of self realization. We all have a time that we hear this inner voice telling us, begging us almost, that something needs to change. And we got that calling at 40. We were really, really paying attention after we turned 40. And we knew it was time. You know, you as an individual and as twins, I guess we always coincide in a lot of things. We knew it was time. So we left everything, that every pattern, every destructive pattern left behind. We literally just let them go like a bad habit, like that. And we started developing new habits, new patterns. And it was a conscious decision. So it was after 40. We're 47 today. So we all have two awakenings. One's when you're born. The second one is consciously. Is the one that you really can be almost on your knees because you are beaten to the ground and say, okay, something needs to change. And that happened to us at 40. And that's how we became, the individuals who are today.
I love that.
But we were seeking in the wrong places though, because for many years, not at 40, but for many years, we were seeking, but we were seeking in the wrong place. And like I said earlier, we were seeking outside, and there was nothing outside. Outside is only a reflection of what's going on inside. So once we looked within in meditation, then we realized
Yeah.
that the whole universe was us. It's not that, yes, we belong to this universe. It just depends at what level we want to speak, but we
Yes.
are that universe. And we hold all the information, every information from any generation, every animal, every plant, anything that is and that isn't is still there. It's all connected, and we have that power. It just depends how deep you want to get.
Oh, I'm
That's
pretty
up to you. That's
fascinated
an
right
individual
now.
choice.
I want to kind of punctuate what you said. We have two, did you say we have two births
Awakening.
when we're born?
Two
Awakenings, right?
awakenings,
When we're
like,
born, and then
yeah.
consciousness. That feels so true. It's interesting. My rock bottom was at 40. Fascinating.
Mhm.
Fascinating. I'm yeah, and so rock bottoms can be that moment, right? That moment that we allow consciousness to guide us into another series of truths. Before we started recording today, I mentioned how I was completely, closed off to a lot of these ideas because I didn't grow up with them. But I was always seeking, and I had to, I couldn't not believe in the intelligence and the majesty of the universe. And I did what, a lot of people do, go traveling to discover myself and all of this. And have totally come to the truth of what you say is very poignant for me, because I really have learned just how much wisdom is within. It's truly magical. I've been able to just ask for information. I call it the Google of the universe. That's my way, because
Sure.
I have been able to
Good
ask for
analogy.
information and get extraordinary information. And like I say, I call it the Google of the universe. I truly believe all information is always available, and there's a way we can dial into it. And because I liked also what you said about it's a learning experience. These aren't things we can teach other people. You've had illuminating experiences. I've had illuminating experiences. Listeners who are here now, one thing I know is true for you is that you've either already had your illuminating experiences or you're ready for them. And this podcast has called you in, and you're listening, and there's an inner truth, and that you're waking up to it. So wherever, and I think I'm always waking up to it. I have to think I'll continue to wake up to it my whole life, like it will never stop expanding and growing. But that I only
Absolutely.
learned not by people telling me, but by people illustrating what was happening for them, and then by me being willing to experience and learn in my life by listening, by paying attention. So I'm deeply moved by what you two are saying.
You said something really, really important, and I just want to make sure we uh, expand on it a little bit. And because he said rock bottom, and then you said you hit rock bottom at the same age, at 40, and life is a perception, right? Everything is a perception. You know, what we see it's a perception, and the way we believe you can make a huge impact in your life is by changing your perception. In this case, when we say rock bottom, can also mean an opportunity, because at that moment, when you feel you are in complete darkness, completely submerged in this place where you don't know how to get out, then that's when you become the seed. That's when you start to. That's where you need to be to flourish. Because without that darkness, without you being so submerged, like in this place where the only way is out, it's just a great opportunity. So if we change the perception of being defeated and we change it for, hey, here's an opportunity. Here is a, this is the time,
Beautiful.
because there is never a bad moment. There are always opportunities. Everything is an opportunity. In fact, everything is a blessing, because without that place, we couldn't flourish the way seeds do, and that's why we identify with the name star seeds. In our Mayan calendar, we are the seeds, like
The
in
cosmic seeds.
yeah, cosmic seeds. Just like in the regular calendar, we are the Gregorian calendar. We are Aquarius. In the Mayan, we are cosmic seeds.
Oh,
So we just
it,
yeah, we just identify with that concept
okay. So that's
of
new
being
to me.
seeds.
First of all, let me acknowledge you for talking about that, for giving such easy language to the concept of rock bottom, just opportunity. In my first book, I also I talk about, looking back on these things as blessings. It used to be, my first sort of opportunity, which I love. It really was an opportunity. It was, I now see it fully as a blessing and like so grateful. Took me a year and a half maybe to sort of wake up to that, and maybe even 5 years to fully really capture how great that was. But now I'm sort of comically known for, like, whatever happens, I something weird can happen, I'd be like, okay, like I immediately start saying thank you for this gift and understanding it. And I've done things like, I was down in New York at a conference, and my back was out and my neck was out, and it was like a car accident flare up, which I don't get anymore. And so I immediately went and I did a meditation, and I was like, thank you for this gift. And I released into it. And the next day I like, that never would happen, where I would just be moving and fine the next day. There would be like this time in between. So I just love this language of opportunity. I really want to punctuate that for listeners, because I know sometimes we see things happening in the world. We sense that things are happening to us. The other thing I want to say is this rock bottom idea. We do sometimes dramatize, and I'm currently working on a book, and I have like this story that I love to tell, and the fast version is, I lost everything. I lost everything. I sold my restaurant that was famous, and then my boyfriend and I broke up, and then my cat died, and then my car died, and I got rid of all my furnishings, and then I put a few things in storage. Then on my way to Mexico, that got robbed, and then in Mexico, my cleaning person, washed my hard drives, and I had nothing left. Okay, that was the story I told myself. And a lot of people would say, "Yeah, you lost a lot. You were down to a suitcase and a dog." Oh, guess what? I had a suitcase and a dog and a place to live and money in the bank. And I spent a year talking about how much I lost. So, you know what? I lost my ability to move, my health, and my money as well. And so it's a really interesting like wake up call for me. Like now I look back on that and go, look at me complaining about all the things I lost when I had money in the bank from the sale. I had a new boyfriend, I had a dog that I loved, and I had a suitcase and I had a roof over my head. And then a year and a half later, I lost all of that. I proceeded to lose everything after that, and then go way into debt, and then lose my health, lose my ability to work. I lost my brain. I had, like, for a while, I had a car. So, I mean, I really learned. I love that you brought up the rock bottom, because sometimes we're saying rock bottom and it's not rock bottom. We're just dramatizing.
Yeah. But at that
Yeah.
moment, it feels real, and it's very,
Tangible. Like you
tangible.
can.
Yes, and the tears are real, and yes, we might be exaggerating. And think about it, when you see a kid and they lose a toy and they start crying, you'll be like, "Pfft, that's stupid. That shouldn't cry." No, but for the kid, it's real. So again, that's why I never minimize people's pain or think, oh, just being a drama queen or a drama. No. Because you wouldn't tell that to a kid that just lost a toy. You'll be compassionate. And so that's why, we have to understand that pain at that moment that that person is going through. It's real. It feels real. And through understanding, you can change your perception. But at that moment, we don't judge them and say, oh my God, that's just stupid. You shouldn't. No. With all the compassion, we go through that process with them, and let them see a different perspective and change their focus. And in that moment, yeah, well, it gets, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. But in the beginning, yeah, we've been there plenty of times. Yes.
And even when it happens to us, we don't just judge ourselves from what the way we feel. We just allow for the emotion to be felt and give ourselves some time, not a day or two,
Yeah.
5 minutes. Give yourself some time to really say embrace that emotion. That's why we're on this planet, to learn how to feel, to experience emotions, a wide range of emotions. So experience it. Just don't get
Yeah.
stuck in it for too long. If you give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes, okay, you want to give yourself a full day, give yourself a full day to be miserable if you want. But then the next day, yeah, go back to your center, because that's where
You'll
everything.
function the best.
I want to ask you about, you have a chapter, You Are Not Alone. And I think that a lot of people feel alone. I think for the longest time, I mean, I really did like stand in the corner growing up and not make friends. And, I was very alone. And I felt definitely like, um, you know, like I'm pretty sure I'm not one of you, right? And then, and then I woke up to, I do feel that I'm connected now, but there was the longest time where I felt isolated, like I didn't fit in. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. What How can you help someone who might be questioning, like, do I belong here? How do you teach that person? What would you have to say?
I wrote that chapter, so let me get
Well,
it.
I mean,
I mean, yeah. So we also, part of our awakening, we owe it to plant medicine, and some rituals that we've done, ceremonies. And in one of these ceremonies, these shamanic ceremonies, I sat on this rock and I felt lonely. I saw all these people, there were like 60 people, and somehow I just wanted to detach. I didn't feel like I belonged there. So I just went on my own and sat by myself, and I was like, why do I feel so alone? I'm surrounded by so many beautiful people and great, amazing people doing the work, and why do I feel alone? And there's always this voice, it's your inner voice, your whatever you want to call it, your guides, whatever, you can put any name to that voice. So there's this voice that always talks to us. Um, I see some voice.
Okay, good to know.
It's not the same voice, or
Maybe it is.
maybe it
Maybe
is.
it is.
So said, when you before you come to this planet, you come with a group of unseen energies that are with you before you come to this planet and after you leave this planet. So, and of course, it was a long kind of like conversation, but basically, the concept that I gathered was that just because we feel alone, that doesn't mean you are alone. But you can say, "Wow," but that doesn't help me in any way. I still feel alone, like my brother was saying. The feeling is real, right? So when we feel alone, it goes beyond uh, this earth. It's in our cellular structure already. That feeling of loneliness, you are born with it. Why? Because there is this energy that we call God, or the universe or source. In the beginning, it was alone. It was just one energy that didn't feel anything because it had no emotions. So it wanted to experience itself. So it expanded, it
Fractalized.
fractalized in millions and an infinite number of realities, because it wanted to feel, to experience this oneness, this greatness that it is. And when we think of beginning and end, and what happened first, the egg of the chicken, it's always been. Everything has always been. So the beginning did have a beginning, but it already existed. So I know it makes no sense, but because everything always has been and it always will be. So that feeling of being alone comes from the original creation itself. Because at some point, this earth, nothing existed, right? It's because we were alone. Now, how we overcome that feeling of loneliness is what makes someone feel a company. Make someone, if we feel alone, that's an opportunity for us to make someone feel that they're not alone. Call someone. How are you doing? I just want to make sure. I just wanted to check on you. You know the power of calling someone and asking them, how do you feel? That's so much. Is You're telling someone, I care. I care for you. And that feeling of loneliness, I promise, goes away like that. So it's kind of like
So is that's
thing that
really powerful. I'm going to be
serve.
I'm going to be integrating that message for a while and listening again. So is that, if I'm to understand it or explore it, is that that's our opportunity? Sort of, we come in alone, and our opportunity is to understand our connection, right? Or is that's one of our opportunities here as we have a life experience?
Sure. It's always an invitation because when we come in uh, and we're born in a family, immediately we're not alone anymore. This original being, this original creator, the creator itself. If when we talk about oneness, what are we really talking about? That these 7.3 billion of people are how many really in the end? One. We really are just one being, fractalized into every single human. But in the end, how many are we really? We're just one. So that sense of loneliness, it'll probably never go away. And I'm not trying to make everyone feel like, oh my God. No, no. I mean, seriously, that being, that powerful creator, when he saw himself, herself, itself as only one, the idea was to experience other realities. That's why the loss of memory. You don't want to remember that you are only one being. You want to believe that there is 7.3 of us in this planet. That's why we lose that memory, that recollection that we are only one being. And that's a beautiful way to spend our time on Earth. But there is a point that we start becoming aware that we really are, we all come from one divine source. And that's another story. But all I'm saying, that sense of loneliness, I believe, will always remain in our cellular structure because we're not 7.3 billion of people. We really are just one.
How we deal with it is
It's
different.
different. Yeah.
That's the
So,
illusion. That's what the illusion is. The illusion is, this is in the illusion, because people is like, oh, the matrix, the illusion. No, no, the illusion is how you deal with your experience, because the earth is neutral, the universe is neutral. How you approach your life, it's, that's the illusion, because what for you can be happy, for me can be super sad, for some, for whatever reason. And that's what we call the illusion. And I believe we mentioned that in the book. What the illusion is really our ability to deal and with life, with your experience, and the way you feel about
Yeah.
life. That's how you can experience it. It's no, there's no science, there's no magic on that. I mean, it just is.
Perspective taking is very well, we know that we can look at the same situation, have completely unique perspectives, and have, in fact, there are other twins that are great examples, right? I'm a twin, I'm a fraternal twin, it's not the same. There are other, I mean, it's still pretty special. Uh, there are other twins who have, who notably who are, we know this on many levels, that when we reframe an experience or when we take another perspective, that we can have a completely different outcome. I'm I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking I would love to talk about, I know it's 2 chapters, so you guys maybe can peck, but I was looking at breathing consciously and being present. Where does your own energy take you? Where should we go next?
well, being present uh, comes from breathing consciously. When you
Yes.
don't do that, all of a sudden your brain doesn't get enough oxygen and it's easy to be wandering everywhere and for your mind to be somewhere else. But when you start taking a really deep breath consciously and smiling and, just being grateful for that breath that gives you life, then it's when you become a different being altogether. Your frequency gets higher. And in that uh, shift of frequencies, then you start connecting with higher realms of existence and all those beings that exist in there, in that realms of existence. Not that they are higher, literally. No, they're here. They're all here. It's
They're
just
just
the
higher
vibration,
consciousness.
higher consciousness. So they go hand in hand because you
Yeah.
cannot, or it would be very difficult for you to become a conscious being without breathing consciously. So I think that's the first step we must practice. Is
Can we explore that? And just so I mean, a few times on the show, we have talked about breathing and breathing techniques. And the reason I love bringing it up is exactly the reason you're saying, because it's not possible to connect to our inner wisdom without breathing. That, just to sort of come into the moment, is there what guidance would you give listeners on how they can start breathing?
Oh, well, there is an exercise that
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
I do every night. We do. I think he does it too. And it was taught by this amazing teacher, Matias Stefano. I don't know if you've heard of him. So he taught us how to breathe. Let's say you inhale for 4 or 5 seconds, and you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you hold it for the same time. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you exhale through the nose the same count, and then you go 6, 7, 8. I have done up to, I've gone up to 25. I've counted up to 25
Empty? When
in
you
the
mean
beginning.
I've counted up to 25
Yeah, like
exhaling or up to 25 empty?
inhaling.
Inhaling.
So you count
Tres, cuatro.
25, and I like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've gone up to 25, and then hold it for 25, and then exhale for 25. The secret of when you exhale is like, how can you exhale for so, yeah, so you just have to kind of like uh, be very conscious of your stomach, how you like really are inhaling, not just your
Exhale.
exhaling, not just your lungs,
You
but
have
your
to
stomach, like
contract
contract, like
your abs,
like
abdomen.
very. And that exercise, like if I'm feeling any low vibrational emotion, sad, upset, and I start doing that exercise, uh, it just it's like it changes you that
I'm pretty
moment
sure they
immediately.
teach that
Breathing is
to,
just
I think I heard I think I heard once they teach it to like special forces, and I've heard of box breathing with the 444. What I love about what you just said
Sure.
is that I feel really truncated at 4. And so I'm nowhere near 25 yet, but I've heard this lesson at 4 or 5 several times. And I feel like I want to keep going, but
Okay.
now the next step I'm supposed to, pause and then go out and then pause. And I feel like I need more time. And so I just want to thank you because you just gave me
right.
permission to, I not that I needed it, but you helped, you helped illuminate a possibility for me. And I love that. So I'm going to start working on increasing my capacity. That's pretty
Right.
cool.
Oh, absolutely. The more you do it, the more you can breathe. You just have to, like, every time you're able to breathe more. You just have to, yeah, allow yourself to go as far as you can.
And I think it's easier
Yeah.
when you are laying down, though.
Yeah.
If you lay down, it gets easier. So it's a good practice before you go to bed and before you wake up, before you get up, after you wake up. So it's just a good practice because it just clears your mind and it just makes you feel lighter.
Mhm.
It makes you smile. I don't know, it makes you feel accomplished. So it really changes your mood a lot.
Remember
So
that
that's
the air that we breathe is what really keeps us alive, right? You, uh, the moment you stop eating food, you still live. You know, if you stop doing whatever you stop doing, you'll leave. But you stop breathing, that's it. So the air really is what connects us to higher realms. When you air is the connection. Above and below are
Yeah, I
connected through
had
air.
one meditation teacher
So
say,
the spiritual
am I
aspect.
breathing in the universe or is the universe breathing in me? And that really just, when you exhale, and I loved I loved that. You brought up the idea, Miguel, you brought up, the idea of lying down, and it's easier lying down. Can you make a connection for me between meditate, so breathing to me, which feels very much like meditation. And I know a lot of people meditate, sitting upright. Can you speak to me a little bit about how you would advise people around their meditation?
absolutely. I always advise to sit upright with your spine very straight. And that's only because your body recognizes all the positions, because what we call positions in the universe is just geometry. So the more geometrical our body position is, the more our cells, our soul, everything it gets recognized as mastery. It gets recognized as wisdom, actually, not mastery, as wisdom. So that's why it's so important to sit straight, to have I mean, I don't know if I know some people can't sit, like in the lotus position, but if you can, it's even better because you start doing the shape of the Merkaba. So everything that we do, these power poses that are called power poses, they really are just geometrical shapes that the body, when you do a certain pose, it ignites, it awakens something in you. So posture is so powerful because the moment people lay down to meditate, you might just fall asleep. So it's not as effective. Are you going to get something out of it? Maybe. But you'll definitely get everything out of it when you are uh, intentionally sitting on a certain position that represents to meditate, to connect to that mastery that uh, you are connected with, that we're all connected with. But it's only when we sit upright that we connect to that. That's why when I go to coffee shops, I go to Starbucks, and everyone is like this, like hunching and working on their computers, or even if they're talking to somebody, they're just hunching. But there is always one person that you'll see them and they're like sitting up, like sitting up. And it's always interesting to see how we're so used to not being connected to that inner wisdom. But that's why yogis and all these spiritual leaders, you always see them, very straight, very posed, because they recognized the power of their body being in a geometrical uh, shape. It's just that. It's just that geometry that you want to represent. And once you do, then something ignites within you that makes you
Because
feel
when
that.
you lay down, you're just really resting.
Yeah,
Mm,
it's
It's
easier just to even pass out and to fall asleep, because
yeah,
you're listening to a nice, probably guided meditation, and the voice is soft, and the music in the background, and the candles, and the
incense.
incense. So it's very easy to just fall asleep.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course.
So, what if somebody, I'm going to stick with meditation for a moment because you brought up something interesting. I don't use guided meditation, uh, just because I just don't want the interference there. But I understand, that it's really good. I have used it in the past, and it's certainly how I got started. What is a practice? So I love how you described because I have heard about the geometry of the universe, and again, this is beautiful for me personally that you connected. So I have to thank the listeners who already know something about meditation as well, that that the shapes, like that, it's really, I'm actually wearing my yogi pants so that the shapes that we're creating are meaningful, and that helps us dial in. Now, how would you suggest do you suggest somebody listen to meditation, or is there a sort of way of entering in that you like?
In the book, we we tell people to go with their own
Practice.
wisdom, with their own practice. Listening to guided meditations, of course, is powerful. Nothing is wrong or right. It's just whatever fits you best. But when you just quiet, not you don't really ever quiet the mind. But when your focus is not just here, but it's on your heart center, on your breathing, on your straight position, on becoming aware of everything that's going on without opening your eyes, obviously, not, but you start seeing everything, the space that you are in with your eyes closed. It's just a different practice than when you're listening to someone guiding you. And we love guided meditations, don't take me wrong, but I believe that when you start doing guided meditations, it's just easier to do it that way, and you're really not doing the work. You are just following someone else's guidance, and you stop following your own guidance. So once you have mastered your own guidance and you follow your own guidance, then yeah, listen to guided meditation. There's nothing wrong with that. We love guided meditations. But where you find a guided meditation fits everyone that's listening to it, right? But when you listen to your heart, and when you let your heart be the guide of your experience during meditation, it's just a complete it's a different level of experience of meditation.
It makes you independent, and that's the freedom that we're talking about in the book, and that's the freedom that we promote. Can you become independent of everything for you to become free? Because independence is just pure freedom. So having your own developed technique on how you go within is very powerful, because once again you feel accomplished, but also it's on your own terms, and it's a beautiful way to experience yourself on your own terms, without anyone telling you how you should feel about yourself. No, it's you feeling you, and you spending time with you. And that's why we don't even call it meditation. That's why we call it it's just a practice of self-love. So a lot of people are still not okay with that concept of meditation, because it implies, yes, sitting upright and too much preparation. No, it's just a practice of self-love, because it's on your own terms, whatever you want. If you want to spend 5 minutes, spend 5 minutes. If you want to spend an hour, spend an hour. It's always on your own terms. And that's the power of freedom. that you can choose the music you play or play no music. I play no music, but that's just me. He likes music. So you see which one is best. Well, to me, I like no sound at all. He likes music. So it's just a beautiful way to start becoming independent, and connecting to that independency. And from there, your whole life develops as just trying to stop uh, looking for gratification outside of you, and you start finding it within. But it has to be always on your own terms, but from a place of self-love, from a place of compassion for the self, not from a place of ego, not from a place. And if it is there, okay, well, so be it. Eventually, you'll come back to your heart again. But that's what I guess we promote the most in the book. This is just a guide that works if you do it. But
Because we don't tell people what to do.
no, no. But what we suggest in the process, if you don't resonate with something, change it to something you resonate with,
Yeah.
and make it your own. And from there, develop your own technique.
Yeah. We describe what's essential for meditation: the breathing, posture, the creating your space. And we make it very simple, but we never tell people this is the only way to do it. And if you don't do it that way, then that's it. Because in the beginning, when we started this process, we will read a lot about how to access your akashic records, how to connect to this, to that. And there was this book that I read about accessing your akashic records, this inner wisdom, and they were saying you have to say this prayer. But if you skip a comma and if you change any word, then that's it. You're not going to be able to connect that. And at that moment, I just closed the book and I said, this is not right. I mean, there cannot be one way. There is no just one way to do things. There is an infinite number of ways to getting what you want in your own unique way.
Yeah. Beautifully said. I couldn't agree more. And I was fortunate to have an early meditation teacher who, like you, opened up possibilities, instead of closing in. As we wrap up today, I well, I guess as we wrap up today, what really came up was I had a different question, and then in my head, to what degree? I just had a fun, like sort of a fun question. I have two more questions. The first is, to what degree have you achieved telepathy with one another?
Well, for us, it's interesting because, like, I've done it 3 times where I'm in a very crowded place and I lose him. And there's so many people, it's like, I'm not going to find him. So I just close my eyes and I just talk to my spirit and say, uh, I don't know if I just say something. I'm sure I have, but I just let my legs to take me to him, and I always find him like that. So I just literally allow my body, my inner guidance, to tell me exactly what he is. So, and then I do all these turns. I was like, what? And I find him, and it's right there. So it never fails. I've done it 3 times in 3 different events, very crowded events, like Art Basel, where they're massive places, and I always find him.
But
So you just have to trust.
granted, I always know what he's thinking. He always knows what I'm thinking. I mean, he can't lie to me. I cannot lie to him. We're just one.
And I tell him
being.
sometimes, and he tells me, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do this because of that." It's like, no, we're not. I mean, we're doing it, but it's not because of that. It's because of this. I know why you are doing. Anyway, so yeah, it's just funny how he still tries sometimes.
Or he tries. Yeah.
My last question, I welcome you both to answer it, is this is a podcast all about boosting abundance. What does abundance mean if you were to define abundance in your way of thinking?
Well, it just depends who you ask. Again, that's a concept. Yeah. And I was gonna say, well, if we have to describe it, we have had the opportunity to make a lot of money in life, a lot, like, a lot of money, and some other times when we didn't. So I can go both ways in this paradox and say abundance has been both, when we had a lot of money and when we didn't, because it was an abundance of learning when we didn't, and a lot of other experiences when we did. So to me, abundance is everything. There's not one thing. When you can actually describe abundance, you're actually not describing it. when you can see abundance as all there is, whether your situation is good or bad, whether you have $100 to your name in your bank account or $1 million. We've been in both situations. It's been abundant anyway. You just have to focus on abundance, and you can have $100 to your name, but if you focus on the abundant amount of learning you have to do there, you are living an abundant life. So it's just not to have that concept of what abundance is, because the moment you can describe it, it's not there anymore. Abundance is not to be described. Abundance is everything that you are looking at and what you are not looking at. It's all abundance. Actually, the limitation of abundance is when we start trying to define what it is. So I know a lot. Most people relate abundance to how much money do I have in my bank account, and that's not it. Abundance is everything. It's just when you want to really have a financial stable life, you need to become that abundance. How? Well, believe it or not, I've seen people that if they have $50 to their name, they can still share those $50 with some other and give them half. There are people who have $1 million and they give you the same $25. So who is more abundant? Well, the guy that has only 50 and is sharing half of those 50, not the one that has the million. So it's a state of consciousness. It's not a bank account. It's not anything like that. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with
Beautiful.
a
Yeah,
sense of
I think
awareness
you're,
and consciousness.
I love it.
There was this
That's
teacher.
my parents are actually examples of that. Wealthy on the mother side, like this with everything they had. My father, I don't think of abundance as wealth at all, but I know some people do for sure. So I loved your answer, Marco.
I was
What
going to
comes?
mention this teacher that he died actually a few years ago. He used to say, "My boss is so poor, the only thing he has is money." And I love that phrase because, like my brother was saying, we believe that being abundant means to have money, and that's just financial. That's
Stability.
Yeah,
stability.
no.
That has nothing to do with being abundant. The way you carry yourself, the way you smile can be abundant. The way you talk can be abundant. And you can be abundant just by looking at yourself and seeing the abundance in you. If you cannot be that abundance, you're not going to see it anywhere else. That abundance is something that you have to feel. You have to feel that you are abundance. Because when you realize how perfect you are, your body, your organs, your heart, and you cannot even describe the abundance that is in you, let alone the abundance in the universe. But if you feel it, if you feel abundant, the good relationships, the financial stability, uh, the relationship you're looking for, the work that you're looking, is gonna come abundantly because that's how you feel, and you're only reflecting from within, right? So feeling abundant starts by looking in. That's it.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today for your illuminating conversation. I'm just deeply connected to what you've shared today, and I think it's very powerful. And I know that listeners are going to want to figure out how they can get their hands on your book so they can really dial into some of the concepts that we touched on. And of course, as always, we'll have your links in the show notes. But can you tell listeners, how do they keep going with you? Where can they find you, get the book, and learn more from you?
Well, the book is on Amazon, so you can just type "I am one," the Peralta Brothers, or Starseed Twins, and you'll find it. But granted, the link is going to be included. In social media, well, we have both Starseed Twins, Starseed_twins in Instagram. One who serves is mine on Instagram. So we'll include all the links for sure,
YouTube.
including our email, our YouTube channel.
We're big on YouTube,
So
as in we like to put information on YouTube.
yeah,
So that's another
but we can really elaborate through email. Like people who take the time to write us an email, we take the same time
to
to
reply.
respond. So
Yeah.
we're really good at answering back.
What a beautiful conversation. I feel so blessed to have spent this time with you today. Thank you very much for joining me, listeners. Make sure to follow up and learn more. These Starseed twins they're stars, they're gems, and there's so much to be learned. And I look forward to learning more too.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you very much. Thank you for
Appreciate
your time.
invitation.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Thinking Vitamins podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, comment, follow, and come to thinkingvitamins.com where you can sign up to get our newsletter and additional free training.
Thinking Vitamins with Jill McAbe.